All right, we are going to make a simple verse code device that hides all of the player HUD or individual HUD elements as you so choose. And what that looks like here, we've got the verse device in the level, and you can see that there are toggleable elements where you can hide all of the player HUD elements or individual elements, and then you can add as much to this as you would like. What that looks like in code is here. So this is what we are going to be creating today. Very, I'm only learning verse myself. It's may seem a bit daunting at first, but it's actually quite straightforward. Okay, so let's create that now. Okay, so to create a new HUD device, I'll just close this so it looks a little bit more like what you might be seeing, and we'll get rid of the old device. So to create a new HUD verse device, you're going to go up to verse, which is right up next to the build menu, and go into the verse explorer. This is going to open a outliner for verse scripts, similar to your existing UEFN outliner. And just at the top level, and you can probably create new folders in here. What I'm just going to do is right click on my project and go add new verse file to project. And I'm going to call this something like hide HUD elements underscore device. Go create. Now, if you already have Visual Studio installed, when you double click on this, it will launch Visual Studio for you. And if you do not already have it installed, it will ask you if you want it to be installed. And of course, yes, we do, as that is what we are going to be using to code these verse scripts. So the quick tour of what we're going to be using here, and let's just get rid of the starter code that comes in. We want to keep our creative device class because this is what tells verse that we are creating a device, and this is what it's called. Up here at the very top, you'll see these lines that say using with a couple of paths. These are databases that are publicly available that are going to be referenced in this code. Now there's a couple more databases that we need to add for UI elements. And those are going to be our Fortnite UI database, as well as the temporary UI database from Unreal Engine. Okay, so the first thing we are going to add in here is we'll create our editable toggleable buttons. So here is my force hide player HUD button. So it's an editable button. I can edit it within the editor. And the logic, it's currently coming in as false, so it's going to be unticked. Now, all this does right now is creates the button. It doesn't actually connect it to any logic. So we are going to add add the logic for what happens when the game begins. So let's begin with on begin. I'll bring this over. Okay, so we'll just line it up with editable. Cool thing about verse is it's contextual. It's contextual nesting, so things that are nested within other lines are part of that function. So on begin, we are going to get the play space. So get the player play space, get the players what they can see. We're going to get their HUD. So get the HUD controller for the player space. And I'm going to set a variable and say, okay, I want to be using, because I'm going to be using this a lot, a variable called hidden elements. That variable is going to be made up of HUD element identifiers, an array of them, and which means I can add as many HUD element identifiers into hidden elements as I so choose. And we are going to connect this force hide all player HUD to into that array. So beneath that, I will say if the force hide all player HUD option changes, so that's our little question mark here, then I'm going to set a new value for hidden elements, which is a variable we have here, to include in that array the player HUD identifier all. And the last thing that we need to do to make that work is we have to actually call to the HUD controller device and tell it to hide the elements that are going to be contained within hidden elements. Let's declare return type. And I think it was erroring out because it was existing outside of the onBegin function, which means it was naked. It did not actually have anything it was referring to. Whereas if we just nest it within the onBegin function, suddenly it goes, oh, I'm part of onBegin. Okay, yep, cool. I can work now. Thank you. Okay, so let's test this. So I'm going to, first of all, we need to tell Fortnite to include that verse code when we launch a session. So I'm going to drag my verse code from the content browser into the scene. And you can see that here. And we're going to go up to verse and build the verse code. Once that is built, so once that's been built, you can see my devices, my details panel on the device has just updated. And you can see that it currently has that force hide all player HUD option available for toggling. And we'll toggle now. And let's launch a session and see what that looks like. Okay, so that first option that we added for force hide player HUD has hidden the player health bar on the left, but we still have all these disparate elements on the right. So let's hide those as well. Nice. We're going to add a couple more elements into our code here. So let's add another button, and this is going to be the force hide creative HUD. We'll add that as editable below the fourth player HUD. And now that we have that button, let's make sure that that logic is also in play. So we'll add the if statement that controls the set hidden elements array for the creative HUD identifier. And that very similar to the force hide player HUD, it is going to be setting a new state for hidden elements that adds into the existing array the creative HUD identifier all class. We don't need to make any changes to the scene as the first code is already there, but that toggleable element is not currently present. So we just need to go up to verse and build verse code, and that will add in the toggleable element. Let's toggle that and launch the session and see what difference that makes. Okay, so that has hidden all of the elements in our HUD except for, strangely, these crafting resources. And that is why we are going to be adding individual HUD elements to hide. Let's return to that. Okay, so we'll go back to our verse code. And this time we are going to add in another editable button for showing and hiding crafting resources. And once again, add in our logic for showing and hiding crafting resources. So what I've added is If the show crafting resources is not true, then add to the hidden elements array our creative HUD identifier crafting resources, which includes wood, stone, metal, and permanite. And these are separated by commas there. And once again, it is not going to show up in our verse device until such time as we build the verse code. We'll just turn that off and run the session and see if the last of our elements are. And there we have it. All the elements of our heads-up display have been hidden, which is perfect for any kind of cinematic or narrative moment you might be building for your Fortnite map. I will paste the code that we created into the description of this video, as well as any additional individual HUD elements that I have tested um, uh, into the description as well. Let me know if you've enjoyed this video and would like some more questions, comments, criticism, feedback, etc., etc. In the meantime, go create some awesome maps, and we'll see you in there.